They pulled up in an unmarked SUV like vultures. Two women in cheap uniforms stepping out with fake badges that glinted worse than their lies. HOA enforcement, the taller one barked. We have orders to remove all firearms from this property for safety violations. Open the safe. My kids pressed against the glass behind me. My wife went white. The shorter one shoved a laminated card at me and sneered, "You don't get to hide weapons from the community." I didn't move. I kept my voice low. "Warrant?" I asked. Their smiles faltered. "We don't need one," the taller woman lied. "This is HOA safety protocol." Neighbors peered over fences, phones already up. I let them hear me slow and steady. "You step inside without a lawful order, you're committing multiple felonies." They laughed, until I tapped my chest, showed them the faint still-burned letters of an old patch they hadn't expected to see, and said, "I'm not bluffing. Navy protocol goes live on one word." The taller woman's eyes flick from my hands to the door, and suddenly their swagger cracked. "You think you can scare us with that?" she snapped. I smiled, calm as the sea, and spoke the word no one wanted to hear. Code Red. The air changed. Phones stopped recording the joke and started recording accounts. The women's fake badges looked like paper in a storm. The taller woman's laugh died the second the ranch gate slammed behind them. My dogs barked like thunder, and the neighbors edged closer, phones steady. The fake officers glanced at each other, suddenly realizing this wasn't some quiet intimidation job. "You're interfering with law enforcement," the shorter one shouted, voice cracking. "We'll arrest you right now if you don't comply." I stepped forward, calm as a storm before it breaks. "Funny thing about arrests," I said. "They require actual badges, actual authority. You've got neither." The taller one pulled out a plastic-looking citation pad and scribbled furiously. "Fine then, you'll get a $25,000 HOA weapons violation. We'll seize your ranch for non-compliance." The crowd laughed. One neighbor yelled, "That's not even a real law." Another added, "Looks like you bought those uniforms on eBay." I let the laughter build before I cut through it with a voice sharp enough to slice the air. "You're not just trespassing, you're attempting to illegally seize registered firearms on private land. That's federal territory, and under Navy protocol, I have every right to neutralize a false authority threat." Their smirk vanished. The shorter one whispered, "She said this would be easy." The taller snapped, "Shut up, he's bluffing." I didn't blink. "Try me. I've already got your faces on a dozen cameras, and in 10 seconds, this feed goes straight to the sheriff's office and a Navy contact who actually trains law enforcement. You're done." The crowd went silent. The women froze, realizing the trap had already been sprung. Sirens cut through the tension like knives. Red and blue lights danced across the ranch fence as the sheriff's cruiser barreled up the dirt road. The crowd parted, phones still raised, every lens aimed at the imposters. The two fake officers stiffened, trying to look official, straightening their dollar store badges. The taller one waved desperately as the sheriff stepped out. "Sheriff, thank God you're here. This man's armed and resisting HOA enforcement. He threatened us." The sheriff didn't even look at me. His eyes locked on them. Slow, cold, dangerous. "HOA enforcement," he repeated, almost spitting the words. "Yes, sir," the shorter one piped up quickly, thrusting the laminated card at him. "We've got orders from the association to seize firearms for community safety. He's non-compliant." The sheriff took the card, turned it over once, then let it fall into the dirt. He stepped closer, his hand resting on his belt. "Funny thing, because I know every sworn officer in this county, and neither of you are on my roster." The taller woman tried to hold her ground. We're part of a special division." "Special division of what?" "You're trespassing, impersonating officers, and attempting an illegal weapons seizure." His handcuffs gleamed in the sun. "That's federal crime territory." The crowd erupted, neighbors shouting, "Arrest them! Lock them up!" Someone yelled, "Told you they were fake!" I stood silent, arms crossed, while the sheriff glared at the two women. He tilted his hat back and asked the line that froze them to their bones. "If you're real cops, where are your orders?" The taller woman's mouth opened and closed like a fish on dry land. She stammered, we were told, the HOA gave us clearance." The sheriff's jaw tightened. "The HOA doesn't issue clearance. Only my office or federal agents do. So I'll ask one more time. Where are your orders?" The shorter one cracked first. She dropped her fake citation pad, hands trembling. "We don't have any. She told us you'd fold if we looked official." The crowd gasped, phones zooming in, capturing every word. The sheriff's face darkened. And who's she? The taller one tried to shove her partner, hissing, "Shut up!" But it was too late. The truth was spilling. I finally stepped forward, my voice carrying across the yard. "Sheriff, I think I know who's behind this. She's been trying to run her so-called HOA like a private army." The sheriff gave me a sharp look. "You got proof of that?" Wordlessly, I pulled out my phone and tapped. A live feed flickered onto the screen. Night vision footage from my barn cameras. It showed these same two women being coached by none other than Karen herself, standing in my driveway days earlier, handing them fake badges and saying, "If he resists, tell him it's HOA law. He won't know the difference." The crowd roared. Neighbors shouted curses, some even calling Karen's name out loud. The sheriff's lips pressed thin. "That's enough for me." He turned back to the imposters, snapping his cuffs onto the taller one's wrists. She spat, "You don't know who you're dealing with. She runs this whole neighborhood." I looked her dead in the eye and said quietly, "So did Saddam." Didn't work out for him either. Gravel crunched under tires before anyone could move. A black Lexus screeched to a halt at the ranch gate, and out stormed Karen herself, heels stabbing the dirt like she owned it. She was red-faced, clutching a leather folder fat with fake paperwork. "What is going on here? Why are my officers in handcuffs?" The crowd booed. Phones whipped around to catch her meltdown. She waved the folder high like it was gospel. "I have authority. This man violated HOA regulations. Guns, barbed wire fences, unapproved structures. This whole ranch is non-compliant." The sheriff raised a brow. "Karen, your HOA doesn't extend here. This land isn't even inside your district." Karen shoved the folder at him. "Then I expanded the district. Page 12, see? The board voted to annex his ranch." I let out a low laugh. "Funny. My granddad bought this land before the subdivision was even built. You can't annex what doesn't belong to you." The sheriff flipped through the folder. His expression shifted from annoyance to disbelief, then to fury. He held up one sheet and read it aloud. "Order of firearm confiscation, signed by Sheriff Daniels." He slapped the paper against his palm. "Problem is, I never signed this. This is forgery." The crowd gasped. Karen's face drained. It was a mistake, a clerical error. I stepped closer, locking eyes with her. "No, it's a crime, and you just walked into your own sting." Her voice cracked, desperation leaking through. "You don't get it. I am the law here." The sheriff leaned in, his voice low and lethal. "No, Karen. The law is standing right in front of you." He snapped open another pair of cuffs. Karen jerked back as the sheriff reached for her wrists. She screeched, "Don't you dare touch me! I'll have you removed from office! I'll sue this entire county!" She whipped around, pointing at the crowd. "And all of you? You think you're safe laughing at me? When my lawyers get here, you'll wish you never—" Her words cut off as my barn's floodlight snapped on, triggered by the motion sensors. The screens I had mounted inside my porch flickered to life, broadcasting the footage I had queued up earlier. Every phone turned toward it. There she was, on camera, Karen in broad daylight, handing fake badges to those two women, her voice clear as a bell. "Say you're HOA police. Seize the guns. He can't stop you if you act official." The crowd exploded. Gasps, boos, shouts of "fraud" and "lock her up." Neighbors she'd bullied for years surged closer, phones held up high like torches. Karen went pale, then lunged at me, trying to grab the remote from my hand. Instinct kicked in. I pivoted, my Navy training sharp as ever, catching her wrist mid-swing. The crowd fell dead silent as I leaned close enough for her and the front row to hear. "You just tried to impersonate law enforcement. You forged the sheriff's name, and now you attacked a veteran on his own land. Game over, Karen." The sheriff yanked her back, cuffs snapping tight around her wrists. She shrieked, kicking dirt, "This isn't how it ends! You can't do this to me! I run this neighborhood!" The sheriff pulled her toward the cruiser, shaking his head. "Not anymore. You don't run a thing but your mouth."